Boys Who Challenge Hitler is a nice book that discusses a narrative in World War II with a very simple style. The author, Philip Hoos, interviews a legendary hero named Knud Pedersen, who is this young boy who grew up during occupied Denmark in World War II. They discuss the formation of two rebellious clubs, the Royal Air Force Club and the Churchill Club, which is the main thing about in this book, both of which were made by Knud and his friends to oppose the German occupation in Denmark. It's a very suspenseful book. It's entirely nonfiction. It's really easy to relate to the fears of growing up in such a chaotic environment while understanding the difficulty of rebelling against something that seems like an unstoppable force. The book's style is, again, very simple. The structure is easy to understand, and it really does have an excellent story. The book begins with the author discussing his intent to write the book and meeting with Knud Pedersen. He talks and begins to understand some of the context surrounding the story Knud lived through and created, and then transitions into the actual novel. The novel itself begins with Knud recounting his life in 1940 when German forces began invading countries all around Europe and stuffing propaganda flyers all over Denmark through plane that proclaimed Denmark basically as a nation of their future German empire. Basically, Denmark is now occupied and that the government better just, huddle up to the Germans or prepare to get demolished. Now, Knud remember feeling outraged like many of his neighbors and his family because they all don't like Germany and they don't like being invaded. But there were also some Danes who actually did like German occupation because it was economically really good. It provided a boost to a lot of markets, and while Danish government decided to accept German because of these reasons, the Norwegian government, who was also invaded at the same time, decided to fight. Norway was obviously outmatched and destroyed by Germany, but a lot of people did really value their bravery and realized how, cool it was that they were standing up to German occupation and that they were trying to preserve their own nation. Now, Knud and several of their friends, as well as his older brother named Jens, were all ashamed of their country's cowardice and complete inability to deal with German occupation. They were all sad that the Dane government just decided to not care. So then after Knud was forced to move to another town due to his rebellious activities, he started something called the Churchill Club, and then started doing really big acts of sabotage, such as stealing weapons, blowing up trains, and eventually got him and his friends put into prison. The book really does pick up after that as well, and discusses a lot of the nature of bravery, of feeling nationalistic about a country, and how easy it actually is to tip over an unstoppable force if it isn't really focusing on you. Okay, now on to the review. For emotional variation of The Boys Who Challenge Hitler, it's just great overall, especially with Knud's personal account of what happens. He describes events and their impacts on him, his club, and his family in amazing detail, and the incredible feelings of, rebellion under this cruel oppressor that was Germany was great, and the descriptions of them comparing themselves to their government and the Norwegian government was a really cool triangle that I really liked and did make the feeling aspect of the entire event way cooler than it was before. For ideas, topics, and themes of The Boys Who Challenge Hitler, there's quite a few, okay? They're all expressed very well. The main one is obviously just perseverance and hope in the face of something that seems hopeless. The formation of these rebellious clubs and these successful acts of sabotage that Knud managed even as a teenager without military or fighting experience just shows how easily rebellions are and why it's important to maintain hope and not just give up. The fact that Denmark's government just simply was intimidated by Germany into just surrendering really says a lot also about the idea of perseverance. The value of hope basically allows Knud and his friends to go and continue working against Germany even when their own government has just completely given up. A second theme was just the idea of humanity in German occupiers. Several times throughout the book, the Churchill Club discusses hurting or even killing a German soldier because they stole a bunch of weapons. They had pistols and even a machine gun. The one time they actually tried a genuine attempt to murder a few German soldiers, they actually met the people and felt that they were decent and that they shouldn't actually hurt them in any way. It really speaks volumes about the fact that Germany, despite being an unstoppable force, was still carried on the shoulders of just regular people, some of which weren't, horrible, and most of which were just decent. The people that the club actually hated were Danish people who just accepted the Nazi soldiers and didn't bother resisting it at all. Now, in terms of written quality, The Boys Who Challenge Hitler is great. All of Knud's personal accounts were excellent. The detail in describing all of the events were amazing, and I really like how the book covers a very lesser-known part of World War II, because not a lot of people talk about occupied countries, especially Denmark. I think this is a very interesting perspective to bring into something not really the war, but just regular life. In conclusion, I think that The Boys Who Challenge Hitler is a great novel, easily gripping story, a tale of courage, perseverance, hope, all in one, and it just has a fantastic historical narrative on a very unique view, well-placed context. You couldn't really ask for more from a nonfiction cover of a detailed event in World War II.